All right, welcome back to It's Basically Monday.
Hey,
Yeah.
But it's not. I mean, it's never actually Monday. Have we
yeah,
ever
It
it's
was
had?
just
that
not our
one time.
schedule.
Oh yeah, we only had one pod. So we've like have how many episodes? Like
That's not true. We've done it
15.
more than
I
once
mean,
on a Monday.
even before this new set of episodes, we had like several dozen episodes before this. I feel like, and I don't think we've ever. I think we've only done it on a Monday one time.
No way. I feel like we've definitely done it more than once. It's probably like three times or something.
You think so?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think so. I don't think
definitely.
so,
There's
man.
no way. Like of all the times we've ever done it,
Yeah, I don't think so,
I
man.
think it happens like once per year.
I guess that'd be in
yeah.
line with what Varo said. That'd be three.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't know, man.
No,
Maybe.
we've been doing this for longer than 3 years.
Yeah.
We were doing this before me and my wife were together, which is like almost 7 years now.
Well,
Wait,
shit.
for real?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yep.
Yeah, what
Because
was the
we were
first
doing
year?
this when I lived in West Dallas.
That's true. Yes,
Yeah, that's
that's where it started.
that's correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I only knew her for 2 months and then I moved from that place.
Dang.
Crazy.
All right.
Well,
So, wow. I feel very old. Thank you
Fun
for
fact.
that.
yeah.
Don't go looking for those episodes. They suck.
Yeah, they you can't find them anyways. We've
Yeah.
talked about
Yeah.
Okay, good.
We've already vaulted that. It's gone.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I want to take a quick moment to just tell anyone, to address anyone who might have watched the last, most recent podcast of ours. Just wanted to apologize for the interruption at the end. For some reason, the uh, broadcast software was having some difficulties, but I believe that we fixed that. So yeah, hopefully that will not happen again. But yeah, I think
Ah,
it was.
public service announcement.
Yeah,
My bad.
yeah, I just want to let people know what's going on. Let the people know what they're getting.
Yeah, that's
Make sure they know we're aware.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, but yeah, I wanted to just talk to you guys a little bit about first, like, what's been going on in the last week. Any changes with anyone? Because I have a few if
Uh
no one does.
I mean,
yeah,
like,
nothing serious.
Nothing big.
changes. I wanted to talk about. But I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save it for later. So
Okay,
we'll
okay.
keep it in the we'll keep my change in the pocket
All right, in the old pocket.
here.
All right.
It's
Yeah.
nothing crazy. It's just like I feel like it's a good conversation topic.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, nothing major for me, but like as you guys know, I'm stay-at-home dad, and like I feel like things change with Milo almost all the time. And I feel like things are changing so quickly now that I'm just starting to like not have a clear grasp sometimes on what she looks like as a person because her features and everything are just like morphing. Like I don't know, it's weird. Like if you ask me if I look on my phone, like the picture I took of her like 6 months ago, I have that picture of her in my head, but then I like wake up next to this child who's like much older than that.
That's funny. My mom described seeing me the same way. Like, she would constantly get scared when I would walk around the corner and like jump or like kind of like scream like ah or like I'm just like how like I
Yeah.
live with you my whole life like you I like what like how do you not know it's me like and she's like I'm sorry I just like every time I think of you you're just so small and then now when I see
Yeah.
you it's holy shit this grown man is here like who is
Yep.
this I'm just like
That's
that's
exactly
just
right.
so stupid I feel like you're just being dramatic but
No, man, it's
it,
true.
Wait,
It's a
in your
real
guys'
thing.
like baby photos or like yeah, in the youngest photo that you can think of right now, do you think that you look like the way that you do
M-
currently?
Me?
Yeah.
Um, in my mind, yes, but then I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, I feel like I look so much older. Like, I don't know. When I
that
look at
is
myself
funny
in the mirror.
Yeah, there's
yeah
like we have like or my parents have like our newborn like pictures from like the hospital up like around the house. And every time I look at it, I'm like, that's an alien. Like it looks
Yeah.
literally nothing like me. But I think that's all babies, like
Well, I
Yeah.
the
guess like
first
a
like few
newborn,
minutes.
Yeah,
yeah.
newborn, yeah. Newborn.
Yeah.
But
Newborn
what
they
about
all
when
look
you're like
weird.
2 years old, or like 2 or 3 or something like that?
Yeah, even then, even like yeah, 2 years old, they're like I can see how we're related, but
I think three,
yeah,
four
we're
is when
not
you
even
start
like
to really take
the
shape.
same person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like 3, 4 is when you really start to like lean into your features enough to where you'll be recognizable even at 22 from that age. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there would
I
be
guess so.
enough correlation, I feel like, where you'd be like, okay, yeah, I can see that. But like 1 to 2, I can tell you right now, Mila looks similar to when she was 1, but it's a completely different human being. Like it I don't know. It's honestly, if you had told me they weren't related, if you just saw the pictures, I might believe you. Like that's how much change has gone by. Like that's what the
Yeah.
crazy thing is. Like I literally would not recognize her if like someone dropped off Mila and said like, "Hey, watch her for a little bit," and then took her away for a year and dropped her back off. I would think that that's not the same person.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I,
like,
I
nah, give me
actually
my
agree.
baby.
Like, seeing pictures of her, she does look way, way different now than she did. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, just exactly what you were saying. So, like, yeah, I think it's just like a newborn thing. Like,
Yeah.
all
It's just
babies look weird. Yeah,
it's
I
just a
was like
weird
a fat
thing.
baby.
Oh,
Like,
really?
seeing me like with rolls, like I had like a hot dog pack on the back of my neck. Like I had like a little 2 pack. Like,
Damn. Old Chubs.
yeah. I looked like the Michelin Man.
Jesus
So
Christ.
jolly.
Yeah, you're just jolly.
Yeah, yeah, like I just like stuffed like all these rolls everywhere. I was like, wow, that's really weird because I don't even know what that's like. Like anyone who knows what I look like now knows I'm like one of the skinniest people ever. Like basically, like
Yeah,
never been
there's
able
no
to
way.
gain an ounce of weight my whole life. And when I look at pictures like around that age, it's like where did this like how like that doesn't even make sense to
Wait,
me.
so is it basically just like your face attached to like a sack of fat?
Like honestly, I feel like the only thing that's recognizable is like my eyes and like maybe like my smile, I guess. And like everything else is and like my head shape. Like I have like yeah, the head shape is for sure basically the same. But like other than that, like even some of the facial features, like my nose was so tiny, it was kind of hilarious. And it's definitely not tiny anymore, that's for sure.
Okay, that's interesting. So you feel like you had your eyes from birth.
Yeah. Well, at least pretty early on. I can't think of like what are my eyes? In all the baby pictures I'm thinking of myself, my eyes were always closed because I was sleeping.
Okay, yeah. Dude, yeah, I don't think I really retained anything. If I'm thinking of myself at like 2 years old, I don't think any of my features are the same still. Like
Yeah.
maybe like my face shape, but everything else, no.
Yeah. Such crucial changes are happening. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to share how that was a weird experience to have as a parent. Because, like, even though you know that happens, it's a very different thing to, like, witness it happening with, like, this thing that you were attached to so much. Because it feels like you're attached to two different people. Because, like, when you see even though you know, like, ah, yeah, that's Mila. Like, when I look at pictures, I'm like, yeah, that was Mila too, I guess. I'm like, but not really. Like, it's a weird mindfuck thing.
Interesting.
Are you noticing, well, I'm sure you are noticing like threads or like trends that you think like she's gonna carry out through like to when she gets older in terms of like her personality and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, yeah.
Because like yeah, it's weird that you talk about how fast she's changing because I don't think any of us or very many people like really can remember who they were or like what they were like when they were that young. So like it's only really it's up to you to like to have to like tell her be like, "Oh yeah, when you were like 1 years old, you were like this, and when you were like two, you were like this." So,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, in a sense, you kind of like know her better than she does, and it'll probably stay that way until like I don't know, maybe like 8 or 9 or something like that. I don't know. I don't have a kid, so I can't really say, but whatever is the age when your kids stop telling you about themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I wonder how much she'll wonder about what she was like.
Yeah, but so if you had to put any bets on like what you think will stay the same, is there anything that like stands out to you?
Um, like, like her, I think she has a propensity to like continually try things, even if she might be failing at them. Like, and she'll try for like what I would consider a good amount of times, more times than I would before I ask for help. But maybe I don't know. Maybe that is something she gets from me. But like she would try and try and try until like even if there was frustration, I feel like sometimes she's just like willing to fail at it like over and over and over again. And then even if things like really scorn her or like scar her, like sometimes she'll fall off of something or she'll run into something or have a bad experience with something, and like she won't let that like I don't know stop her from doing it again. Whereas like me, I feel like as a kid, if I stood up on a chair and fell off of it and I was hurt, I would not do that again. Like that for me, that's like logically it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like why would I do it again if I just had a bad experience with it? But like she I guess in her mind maybe it's even somewhat more rational to just say just because that time was bad doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be bad if she does it again or does it a different way. So she's just willing to get hurt more, I guess. She just has more of a propensity to try different things that I would never do.
Dude, that's
Interesting.
great. Like
Yeah.
tenacity. That's
Right. Yeah,
you need a lot of
tenacity.
that in this world.
Yeah, do you think you were the type of kid who would like, yeah, which one were you good at?
Uh, I was definitely like scared of everything. Like I was a nervous little shit. Um, like I was scared of bees, and I had never even been stung. It was just the thought of like what they could do that scared me so much.
So like, so you weren't the type to get hurt doing something and then try it again?
No, not really. Like, yeah, if something bad happened to me once from that experience, I would do everything that I could to like avoid it.
Yeah. See, and what's crazy is like with Mila, like being scared of something, she it actually makes her laugh a lot of times. Like anytime I've like tried to like do something like scary that would scare a normal kid or like shock her in some way, like if she's running around a corner and I scare the absolute shit out of her. Like I have done it several times where I jump out and I put everything fucking into it and she jumps like she's just seen a ghost and she's about to turn white. And I swear to God, like every single time, I swear she jumps like she's scared shitless, and then she just bursts out in laughter. Like she thinks it's the most funny thing in the world, and I can't put my finger on it. It's like I like scary movies, I do, but just being like scared like that all the time, that would drive me nuts. And for some reason, she just thinks it's hilarious.
Maybe
Interesting.
she's laughing at herself. Maybe she's like, "Ha, Dad, I was so scared."
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
exactly. She's like, you got me good on that one. Like,
But that's crazy. Like I would be more upset with like it's just one of those another that's another one of those differences that I see between like her and I a little bit.
Yeah, man, she's too strong.
Yeah, she's strong.
very interesting. Yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, that's all that's going on with me.
Yeah,
Watching
I
the
feel
little
like
ones grow.
honestly, it reminds me a lot of myself. Like, I can't like, but it's hard for me to think. It's like, okay, what time can I think where I got hurt? Like, I can't really think of like many times where I got hurt. I mean, I messed my neck up like sledding, I guess, when I was a teenager, but that never stopped me from sledding. Like, I've lost money in the stock market, but I still trade in the stock market. Like, I feel like yeah, like it does. Like, there's not many times where I've gotten hurt because I'm also really good at listening to advice and like letting other people like go first and hurt themselves first. I'm just like, okay, I won't do that then. So like, I feel like there's not like, yeah, the first time I can even think of the time I hurt myself was like when I was a teenager. But like, I mean, yeah, like I don't know. I was just like, it sounds more like something I would do. Like if I wanted to climb on top of the chair and like conquer that chair and I fell down, I'd be like, you know what? It's not about how many times I fall. It's about conquering this damn chair, and I'm gonna go for it anyways and do it a different way. So yeah, it's funny like that you both said that you probably wouldn't, but I feel like I would, but at the same time, I was also smart enough to just like listen to an experienced person's advice.
Yeah, you're lucky that it seems like your parents were more willing to like put you in those type of situations and they weren't like scared for your life. Like how you guys like used to go skiing a lot. I feel like my parents would never let like me do that or like take my brother and I to like go like more than 20 hours down a hill on a piece of like man-made fiberglass. Like they would say, no, there's no way. But like you guys like got to do that and like had fun and like went to half pipes and shit. And like I think that's cool.
Yeah, that is true. Your parents would never even let you. That is funny. Yeah. Ooh, how were your parents in that way, John?
Sorry, how my parents won't wait? I'm dying.
Wait.
I said, how are my parents in what way? I was muted because I didn't want you to hear me dying.
Oh, I'm like, is like I saw your thing. Okay. Is what did I even ask? Oh, how are your parents in the way of like, would they let you, like, how would they feel about you going, yeah, going to the top of a mountain and like going skiing or something like as a hobby
Uh,
or like a sport or
I
something
yeah,
reckless and fun, but also like, yeah,
I think they would probably let me do it if I really showed an interest. I never,
okay.
I wouldn't know for sure because I never wanted to partake in anything reckless. But
Yeah, that's true. You
uh,
you only have to get hurt once to know. Yeah,
yeah,
and that's a good I guess that's a good difference. I feel like my dad was really the type of person, like he for sure would get hurt doing something and get straight back up and do it again. Like he's resilient, like for
yeah,
sure. Like so, like yeah, and he's definitely like the more adventurous type. He's the one who got my mom into skiing and had the family going skiing and all this stuff. Like, yeah, that's definitely more of a I got that from him for sure.
Yeah, he definitely from like what I've seen or like what I know of him, he definitely seems like he derives more fun from like doing things in the actual world. Like the idea of like I don't know, like a video game world isn't as interesting as like yeah, like you said, going skiing for real.
Yeah, that's exactly accurate.
Yeah, not that one is like better than the other, but yeah, I think yeah, it's good to have that mix, I think, of getting of views in terms of like safety versus danger. Because I don't know, I feel like probably Danielle's the more dangerous one between you and John. Um, but I might be wrong. You'd have to tell
yeah,
me. But it just seems that way.
yeah.
Like I couldn't see you
You
riding a
think?
horse like just for fun.
No,
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean I go and I ride because she rides sometimes, but yeah, if I was by myself, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good. It's a good example
Interesting.
to be setting.
Yeah,
Interesting. So I feel like all the people that we talked about that I mean, just like knowing personality types and whatnot, me my dad, except for you, John. You're the only one. But me, my dad, and Danielle are all like NP types. Like so we have the N and the P in our personality types. And you do too, which is why I'm surprised that you're not quite as adventurous. But like and then Gouda, his parents are all NJ types. So I'm just like, okay, there's just something about like those types that are more like less willing to take a a risk or something like that. So like it just yeah, it's a little interesting thing to
It might also be environment, because I feel like maybe we all grew up in like slightly different like conditions. Because like John, you lived in like a city, like in Chicago. So
Hmm.
maybe I feel like you were, or like yourself and your mom like were more aware of like the types of things that could go wrong and maybe like more used to it, so it wasn't like you're not scared of every little thing, because if you were, then you guys wouldn't even be able to like leave your apartment. So like maybe you just had more, yeah, more resilience in that way, whereas like Valero, you and I grew up more like in the suburbs, but not like the whole time. Like in the beginning, like you definitely lived in more of the hood than I did. Like I've
yeah,
never
the
been in
hood.
like super like dangerous living scenario where I thought like, oh, like something someone from not in this household might hurt me today. Like that has never been my reality. But
That's
like whereas
crazy.
you like live with that. So like to
Yeah.
you danger is
Guy in
like,
the
"Oh,
streets.
I might get shot in my bed tonight." It's like, "Nah, skiing, that's fun. Who cares if I break my neck?"
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, my parents are more willing to be like, yeah, well, we can hold out here. It's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's yeah, it's interesting to think about where like if someone grew up like on a farm or something like in the country, the second you bring them to the city, like they'll probably be scared shitless for I don't know, like a month or so, even if they're the most outgoing person in the world. That's just what I think, but I might be wrong.
Oh, that's probably
There, I
true.
mean, there are some people who like escape the farm life. Like, man, I grew up in the country. Like Chase, actually, like, are sorry to just like name drop like that. Like, but like, yeah, our friend Chase, like,
This is live,
he
people.
grew up
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere, or what I consider the middle of nowhere at least. And then now he lives in, I guess not a city per se, but it's definitely like way more city than it's part of the greater Milwaukee area, so like I would say that's more city than anyone like in his family is probably used to, or at least as far as
How,
like in the generation above him. I don't know about his
sorry to interrupt,
sisters and cousins.
but like, how much nowhere would you say counts as the middle of it?
Mm.
How much nowhere?
Yeah.
Like I would say like if you have farm fields in your neighborhood, you are at least at the edge of nowhere. Like maybe deeper, depending on, but like that's when I start to say, okay, this is about the middle of nowhere. Like so which
Okay,
honestly
so I'm
like
not
technically
quite
isn't
there
that
yet.
far.
Really? I feel like if you went up 60th and hit county line, there was like farmland right there.
Yeah, there's fucking nothing over there.
That's not, so that's the middle of nowhere.
I mean
A
like
mile away from us. Wow.
yeah, that is kind of funny. But like basically kind of. Yeah, I still kind of consider that like nowhere even though it's like relatively close like to the city. Like you can reasonably get to the city in like a half hour basically.
Okay. All right. What do you think, John?
About the middle of nowhere?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I I think it's a matter of perspective. Like for me, the middle of nowhere is where I live now, but that's because in my mind I grew up in a very hot, populated area, so that's what I'm most willing to, not most willing to accept, but like that's the most amount of people I'm willing to accept. So compared to that extreme, this feels like an extreme of that. Like this feels like the polar opposite of that for me. Now, like, does more of an extreme exist? Like where I could just be on farmland? Yeah, I'm sure, but like I can never see myself being there. So, like for me, I'm in the middle of nowhere. That's what I feel like. And my town is like 8,000 people, and
Yeah,
that
I
I
don't
mean,
even.
that's like the size of the town we grew up in.
really?
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
I have
don't.
not
no
like
idea.
too far off.
There's no way. No, I have to check. I have to check the stats on that.
I think Round Deer has 10, maybe 12,000 people.
Brown
And like that's not that much different than
deer.
8,000.
Yeah, give me the fact check.
Yeah, let me hit the facts. Let me see. Yeah, under 12,000.
All right, yeah. So that
But 12,
that makes
12, 12, that's 50% more people. That is a lot.
I mean, that's
Comparatively,
like I
compared to
guess a
compared to
lot, but like
compared to who how the like compared to the amount of people I see on a daily basis, if I was to be outside in this town the entire day, like that for me would I feel like would be a noticeable difference. Because like
okay.
I'm at the point now in the town where like I'm starting to see some of the same faces,
oh
and
my
like
god.
I
Yeah.
recognize some of them. Like that's how
Like
small
just
I feel like
out
the
and
circle is.
about?
Yes.
Wow, yeah. Well, does that happen in brown deer? I feel like it does.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're going to the same places at the same time every day,
Yeah, I
then
would definitely see
inevitably,
like kids
yeah.
from school. I'm like, oh fuck, like I
No,
do
no,
not
no.
want to
But
talk to
no,
them right now.
I swear to you, I run into some of the same gym people even at different times now. Like
Well, I don't.
Like at the
even
same
there.
gym.
Yes, I only go to one gym.
Well, like maybe
Well,
they're
that's where
also
you're gonna
trying to
see
find a
them.
different time. Yeah, they're just
But
like,
like
oh fuck,
so
I saw
okay,
someone.
but I'm
Let me
saying
choose a different time.
that's what I'm saying. Like there's so few people that like I don't even have like it's not like I see them and two other people I don't recognize. I only see those people. No matter what, like even if we mix it up, there's only us to see. That's my point. Like like
Yeah,
that's
that
what I'm
is.
like that's what's so crazy about how small it feels. Like even like there's only about 20 to 25 people at the gym at like if in any of the given 24 hours. Like that's how crazy small the population is, I feel like.
I've
Okay.
never been to a gym in Brown Deer, but I wonder if it would be
And
comparable. Like
yeah,
the only
and
thing I can compare that to in like Brown Deer would be like Walmart or like
right, yeah.
any corner
Yeah.
stores or something.
It also could
And
be that
that's
not many people
nothing like a
actually go to
gym.
the gym. Like it could just be that like I'm in a meat and potatoes type of
Yeah, do you
type
go
of
to like a
area.
popular gym or like is it like some underground like mom and
No,
pop
no,
no
it's
one's
an
really
no, it's
with
just
it?
no. Could never survive in that kind of gym. It's just an anytime fitness.
Okay, I mean I feel like that should be relatively popular.
Yeah, it's the most commercial gym that we have. Quite literally. Like there is another gym, and it is a commercial gym too, but it's a smaller name from what I understand. So yeah,
Yeah, well,
it's crazy. It's just the same people, man.
that is funny. I mean, that's like it's comparable to brown deer, but both brown deer and wherever you live is nothing compared to like a mega city like Chicago or something.
Right,
So
right,
like,
exactly.
yeah, like either way, like this is like yeah. So like you don't have any like farm fields in your neighborhood?
Not like directly in the neighborhood, but like if you
Do you have
drive,
any like large unused land?
yeah, probably. I just haven't gone to like the edges of Little Falls to even see that kind of stuff. So yeah, I know it exists. Like okay, so we have like like we have our own like compost heap. Like it's that kind of stuff that makes me feel like the town is small. Like I
A
can go
compost heap.
like I
I
can
mean, I can get a compost heap in my yard right now, and I definitely don't. I live in the city.
but like
Like,
it's for the whole town though.
wait, what?
Yeah,
You have
yes.
a town compost heap? Yeah,
Correct,
okay, that's
correct.
definitely.
Yes, yeah, it's for the whole
Yeah.
town. Everyone drops off all their leaves there. Like I drive there with my leaves in bags and I see the same people dropping off their leaves in bags. Like that's literally how small it is to me. Like and yes, there is some open fields across from that area, but like I rarely go there, but I'm pretty sure that's still considered our town. So yeah, I guess that we do have some farmland somewhere. I just don't know exactly where it is.
Yeah,
But
I
So
have to
your
look this up
public
on
services don't
Ep15.
pick up your leaves for you? Like even if you
they
ask, they'd be like, no.
they do, but they only do it on one very specific day, and they have like very specific restrictions around like how many pine needles and shit you can have in there. Like they,
What?
yeah, so they're a little weird, and I don't even chance it, especially when like the compost heap thing is only like 5 minutes away from my house. I just drive over there.
That's crazy. They're like, we only take grade A fallen leaves, none of that rotted or pine cone shit.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, and then they make you like reuse the bags too. They don't actually take the bags; they dump them. So like, it's not even like we have a good system. Even if they're paper bags, they're not taking them. So it's just it's weird. I don't know, but yeah, that my point in all of that was yeah, it feels really
That's
small
funny.
when you can go to the compost heap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it is small. I'm looking at a map of this city right now. Your
Hmm.
main road or whatever, Highway 27 that goes through it,
Hmm.
it's only 2 miles long, which goes
Yeah,
to the whole city.
that's
And that's
that's
exactly
downtown.
like Brown Deer.
Yeah, that's
Actually,
damn, just triangulating him in real time.
yeah.
well, he already said it. That's why I was able to look it up. Like, I was like, oh, okay, let's look
He's
this
on
up.
the highway and everything.
Yeah, he's like, you're right here.
I don't know where your house is,
He was
like,
like,
by
target spotted.
Yeah.
you do have a Walmart and a
Yeah, we do.
Walgreens.
Like that.
That
That
Like,
makes me
does
just
feel
put
in
it
like.
in
London.
context. And a
Okay,
Dairy
well, wait.
Queen.
Well, Gouda, you've been here. Does it feel the town feel small to you?
Not really, no.
Hmm.
I I can look at this on a map and say I personally like I guess technically if you live in a suburb in this town, you live in the suburbs. I would consider that. But like if you live anywhere on the edge of this town, which is not a big town,
Yeah, it's
like I
not.
said, 2 miles wide.
Yeah.
And like if you live anywhere near the edge of that, you are on the edge of nowhere. So like you are like
I'm
you
close.
are so
I'm
close.
close. I'm
Yeah.
right there, man. I can visit whenever I want.
Yeah,
So
yep.
really nowhere is just like it's based on how densely it's populated
Yeah.
around you, not
Yeah.
just like where you are.
Yep. I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, because I think like there's city, there's suburbs, and then there's the middle of nowhere, like whether that's farmland or like you're in like forest or undeveloped land. But like, yeah, like looking at this on a map, like this looks nothing like any place I've ever lived on a map. Like the
Yeah.
very center of it does, like where your actual city is. Like if I zoom
Hmm.
in far enough, I'll be like, okay, like this looks like a bustling town. Like I would maybe live here. But
Bustling.
then like you zoom out just a little bit that's it. Like
Yeah, that's the
you
whole
you
thing.
you have nothing. Like yeah,
That's
yeah,
it,
you're in the
man.
middle of nowhere. Like this is Siberia for all I know. Like there is no escape unless you have like a train to get out or something. So yeah, I can understand why this would feel small. Like it looks small on a map at least.
Yeah, it's a couple streets. That's it.
It's like just a couple streets and
Yeah.
there it is. Oh
Yeah.
my God, Minnesota is huge. I was like, how close is this to the Canadian border? And it's not
It
close.
it's sharing a border with Canada.
Like, yeah, Minnesota is, but like
Yeah.
your town isn't.
No, no,
Like
no,
you're
no.
north, like you're far north.
Yeah, I'm still a couple hours at least away from the border.
But like, yeah, you're super far. It's just man. So like that's how much of even more of the middle of nowhere that we have, just like laying around, land for just
Yeah.
waiting to be used for something,
Yeah. Between me and the border.
which is
Dude,
a
could you
lot.
imagine if the whole map was just covered in city?
Well,
Is that even
actually,
sustainable?
I
That's gonna
mean,
happen
eventually it probably will happen. But like, what's
eventually.
crazy is there's a town that's actually very, very nice and bigger than ours. I think. I think it's bigger than ours. Let me look it up.
Is it Grand Rapids?
It's called no, it's called Brainerd. Oh, actually, it's bigger than ours. Yeah, it's bigger than ours, and it's even further north, and it's a population of 14,000, and it's actually really nice. So like, there's even like there's more there's actual real population north of us still. So
I
like,
see nothing on this map. This is nothing but green, uninhabited land. Actually, wait. Oh,
Brainerd.
Bemidji?
No, Brainerd. Brainerd.
You guys got some weird names here. Like,
Yeah,
definitely
I don't know
some
what they're
gotta be
named
some
after.
Native American names or
You
something. Or
think
French, maybe?
you think
I'm not sure.
Brainerd is a Native American name?
No, not Brainerd, but Bemidji?
Oh
This sounds
yeah,
like
Oh
Bemidji.
yeah.
Yeah,
Indian
yeah, yeah,
almost.
yeah. Bemidji maybe. Yeah, that's a good one.
Scribner? Actually, that sounds very like
Scribner?
European. Scribner. Dr. Scribner here. Yeah, that's pretty sure I've seen that in like a mystery movie or something. Wow. Well, like I still don't see this Brebner. Oh, Brenner? Burner?
No, it's Brainerd. Just search it.
How the hell do you spell Brainerd?
Brain.
Like brain?
Yeah, brain. ERD, and then like the back of the word nerd.
Wow. Brainerd. There it is. There it is. This is like an exact copy of your town. What are you talking about? Like literally, this is like I thought I
It's
zoomed into the
bigger.
same place again.
It's bigger, man, and it's got all the lakes. It's got all the water.
It's got all the water. This is
Yeah,
the
that
same
sweet
place.
H2O.
Yeah, that dense H2O.
Actually, these guys have an airport, so like, yeah, they're definitely, dude. They have an international raceway. Okay, yeah,
Dang.
these guys are banging.
Yeah, these guys are legit.
Yeah, these guys, yeah, they know what they're doing
Yeah,
over
that's a
here.
downright metropolis over there.
Yeah, Brainerd is the up and coming area near us.
Interesting, and yeah, there are a lot of lakes, lots of houses around those lakes. That'd be cool to have. But
If
honestly,
if
like on the map, it still looks like you're just there's no escape in this town. Like, like there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, you're gonna be on the highway for a while to escape.
Yeah, I feel like I really wonder what that's like because I guess you right now are the only person who knows what that's like, and
It's
so
great. It's
you don't
quiet.
feel like you live in the middle of nowhere, or you do feel like, is that what
No,
you
I do.
said?
Yeah, I do.
But you don't necessarily have like looking at this city, you don't live next to one of these farm fields. You live like amongst a bunch of other houses.
Yeah, I live amongst a bunch of other houses.
And like how long does it take to get to the grocery store?
3 minutes.
That's actually really, really good. Like
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Well,
Like
there's
I
no
live in
tra
the city and it takes me longer to get to the
Yeah,
grocery
because
store.
there's no traffic. I mean, it's just like
So when you
you're.
go like 90 miles an hour, like
No, I'm. It takes me 3 minutes to get to Walmart. No, it takes okay, maybe 4 minutes to get to Walmart going just the speed limit, just going 30. That's how close it is.
okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
So yeah,
it's
I
a
would
five
say
minute
like
it's a 5 minute drive max if you hit every light.
that feel like I would say that seems like the suburb life. Like that's what I would consider it. But
Yeah,
then
yeah,
at the same
it does.
time,
It
like
feels more like a suburb. Like we have a school, and like it's not a crazy small. It's not like you're literally one road and the town literally ends. It's not like that. It's like it's not a place where you have businesses and people's homes all on the same road, if that makes sense. Like there is a businesses road, like there's probably like 2 streets of actual businesses, and then you start to get into like the governmental business like buildings, like we have like a police station and like that kind of shit. Like that's all grouped into like one government building. And then like we have maybe a few more rows, like one more row of businesses, and then just straight up houses. So there's just houses, and then the other side of that there's also businesses.
and what made you move here again?
Just the house.
Just the house? You just saw the house like online. You're like, that looks like a good
Yeah,
place, and it
yeah,
just so happened to be in Little Falls. And you're like, well,
correct.
that's fine enough. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah, and then we came and saw it, and then we like checked the town out, and we were like, all right, yeah, cool. That's it.
interesting.
Nothing more. Nothing more at
Nothing
all.
more.
I mean, we had always said that like we wanted to only spend a certain amount of money, and then we were just like, we're fine if we have to go out further to do that, and we ended up going that far out, and it just worked out because like you also get more land here than you would like anywhere else closer to a city too. So like I'm on like a third of an acre, whereas like we were on like maybe point 0.1 acre at our old house, like 0.11 acre. So we basically like tripled the amount of actual land, but we're in this like we're in more square footage, and our actual house is laid out much better than it was before, and like that's all for less money because of where it is.
Interesting.
But like we didn't go into it thinking that. It just happened. It just so happened that the place that we liked ended up being here. So we were just like, fuck it. It doesn't bother us because we both. I mean, at that point we both worked from home too. So it was just like, who cares? Where we don't need to be close to anything.
Yeah, both of you are definitely introverts. But yeah, like I guess I can see in your situation why like you would move here. But like at the same time, it's like yeah, you're like if you both work remote, I can't if you don't work remote, I just can't ever find a reason that you would move that anyone would move to a town like this.
Well, maybe you work in one of the surrounding towns. Like maybe you work in St. Cloud, which is like 30 minutes south of us, or Brainerd, like which is 30 minutes north of us. So you could work in either one of those towns, and if you couldn't find a place for your price range, because like I would assume that St. Cloud and Brainerd prices for homes are like probably more expensive than here. Like maybe some of those people just commute.
So another interesting thing I just noticed. So like I'm on Google Maps and now I just zoomed out and I have like the satellite view so you can actually see what it like really
Yeah,
looks like
yeah.
in real life. So like and I can see like multiple states. That's how far zoomed out I'm at. And like you can literally see the grid pattern of our streets and cities and how like we've built all over like this the planet. And like right where your like the dot is for your city, like that's like just past the edge of like where like the grid pattern stops. Like so like I feel like that's kind of interesting. Like that basically like yeah,
On the
you're on the
fringe.
edge. Yeah, you're on the fringe. You're not deep in there. Like if you needed to be in like civilization, you could be,
I
but
could make it.
you,
Like basically, so basically what you're saying is if there was a like a tornado like or a tsunami that was just gonna engulf the entire United States, and it started with all of the people who are on the fringes of society, population wise. If I rushed to the edge, like from the edge to a city, I might be able to survive. Like I'm just close enough.
yeah, I would say you're actually positioned perfectly either way. Because like if you need to flee the cities, you're like
Yeah,
right there. And if
that's
you need to
true. You're
get to the
right.
cities, you're like just close enough to make it in time. So like
Yeah, I never thought of it like that. That's a good point. I always assumed that I need to get away from the city, but I never considered a scenario where I'd need to go to the city. I just assumed that anything terrible would start at the city.
that's true. But at the same time, like in the movies, like there's always like one city that's like the only paradise amongst like all the hell.
Maybe, yeah, but are those really cities or are they really towns at that point?
I have no idea. I never watched the shows to make it long enough to those episodes where they make it.
You never gave up on them long before.
I
If
assume
that
that must
like
happen at like the season finales in most of those shows or something like that.
yeah, if that like grid pattern that you're talking about, Valero, keeps happening, like you said, won't the world just become like Cybertron?
Yeah, we will have like quite literally covered the entire world. And like honestly, you can kind of argue that like we're almost basically already there. Like zooming out even further, looking at the entire country, the entire east half of the country, like literally if you cut America directly in half, the entire east part of it has that grid pattern. Except for a little bit in the south, there's like some big parts that don't have the grid pattern, but especially like the northeast, man, that's pretty like man, the south, like what are you guys doing? You're not doing a lot over there. But yeah, the northeast, the entire all of it has the grid pattern that I can see from like so far away, which is really crazy. Yeah, that goes to show you how far we've come as humans. Definitely have basically colonized this whole earth. Actually, I guess America's probably ahead of everyone because now I'm kind of looking at all the other countries and there's not a lot of other countries that look like that. But America, you can see the grid pattern from really far away.
Yeah, we're
So
gonna
yeah,
be
if
the
aliens
capital.
invade, they're coming here first.
Yeah, they're gonna make this the capital of their Cybertron.
You're like, this is where the most people live. Yeah, UK and like oh the northern part of Europe has the grid pattern. But that's really all I noticed. Crazy,
Just get me away from the
crazy
grid.
stuff. Yeah, I feel like I like the city. Like if shit goes down, I'm happy to die first. Like it's like if I can't be amongst other humans, like then it's I'm fine not existing. Like
Oh, I meant that makes me think about something. I meant to ask you both. Have either one of you seen the movie Don't Look Up?
yes, I thought that
No.
was an amazing movie.
All right,
I
yeah,
mean like
okay. So I saw it
I like the
recently.
message behind it, but yeah, it
Right.
was
Yeah.
good.
Okay. So I recently saw it like around Christmas, and I also thought it was very, very, very good. And I feel like it came when it came out and it was being like marketed, it was almost marketed like a joke. But then like I didn't even
Yeah.
hear it talked about after like the movie actually came out. Like almost nothing.
Yeah, that same. I actually looked for information about it after I watched it
And
after it came
like
out, and like no one was talking.
I kind of get it though because like isn't that kind of what the movie's about? Like why would we ever acknowledge that we're doing anything completely destructive to ourselves? And like the media just did that exact thing like in real life too.
Yeah, I feel like they just pointed out something that was just blatantly obvious to basically everyone at this point in our history, and like no one talks about it because like there's just nothing to do.
Yeah,
Like we
so
all know
for
it's
those
true, and
for those who don't
it's like,
know,
damn.
for those who don't know and haven't seen the movie, we're not going to spoil like the movie for you, but part of the themes of the movie are discussing like how people like react to media and like our propensity to just go with the crowd in some regards, regardless of what we might have in front of us as like evidence and facts and things like that. Like that was a reoccurring theme in the movie. So it was just interesting to me that like a movie that was about that didn't actually get much play in the media after that. Like at least from what I heard, it's weird. Like when movies are really
It
good,
did.
I see a bunch of shit on them, especially like on Instagram. Like people, I don't understand why, but like for some reason I saw nothing about that movie.
Yeah, I just feel like it was just true, and like when someone like drops a truth bomb on you, sometimes like silence is the only response because like you just have to take it in and just accept it.
Either
Yeah,
so
I
all of
feel
them are
like
just taking it in. Is that what it is?
the world was just like already too exhausted from too many bad things happening. So yeah, just like you said, Valero, to like see that, they're like, yeah, fuck. And they just like ignored it. They didn't want to come to terms with however it really
But what's
is.
crazy is it's directly applicable to that. Like especially COVID. Like it was directly applicable to that in some regard for me. Like I don't know. Like I feel like people would have got something out of it if they had like I don't know seen it. But I feel like I don't know. For some reason I don't feel like a lot of people saw it. I should look up how many people actually saw that movie.
Feel like I guess I would be interested to understand because like the movie, it's a political movie for sure. Like
Hmm.
it doesn't necessarily like state like who's on what side, but like the conversation it invokes is absolutely a political one. And it's like, okay, well, like what do you do like when the government says, okay, wear masks or
Hmm.
don't wear masks or take the vaccine, don't take the vaccine. Like that's basically like the topics that it's kind of playing off of, and like I would be interested to hear who's on because like at the movie, like the general plot of the movie is like an asteroid's coming to Earth, and like the whole movie is just like the world dealing with it. That's the plot of the movie. So like I'm obviously on the side, not obviously, at least for me it's obvious. If they were to say an asteroid's coming to Earth, I would just listen to the scientists and be like, okay, I take your word for it. Like, yeah, like I would probably look up like to see if there's like other independent agencies that are like, yep, this is for sure, and then be like, okay, and then I would take their word for it, and then do whatever we needed to do to like save all of us. And like for somehow and just mind-blowingly to me, that's political. And like there are a lot of people who are on the other side of things and who don't believe like that's the correct action to take. So like I guess like it would be interesting to hear what someone on the other side of that belief would think about that movie. Like they would, if we thought the movie was good and there's nothing to say about it, I'm sure those people would think the movie was bad, and they could probably list 100 reasons why the whole thing didn't make any sense. Probably that's what I'm guessing would be their response to that.
Whoever would say that, I'm sorry, but you're not paying close enough attention.
I think that both because they didn't pick a side, I think both sides would feel that way about each other. Like I don't I think someone who's like on the far political right from this would say that there's some gonna be something that the asteroid is really like a euphemism for some other thing that's gonna destroy us politically or something like that, and that we're not paying attention, and those are the things that are gonna matter, and like something about abortion probably and like that's going to be the destruction of everything, like, and that we're not going to see it coming. And then I feel like someone on the far left could do the exact same thing, but like most recently for COVID or for shit, I don't know, like anything's women's rights related. um, yeah, it just depends on what side you're already on. I feel like you'll walk away from that movie just reaffirming your natural belief, because they importantly, because they're making a movie, they didn't pick a side, so that both sides could probably appreciate that side of the other person, because I'm sure both sides feel that way about each other.
I feel like, can we find a Republican and like get him on here and just like ask him some questions? Like literally like not insulting questions. Like I would just like really want to know like why they think of like some of the things they do. Like because I just don't know. Like I can't even like think of any ideas of like why they would take the sides. Like 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 I yeah, like why it's so like obviously like a main thing is like when the pandemic happened, I just figured like when it first like kicked out, I thought everyone was just gonna like stay inside, everyone was gonna like put on masks, do what they were gonna do. But then like almost immediately like you got like people like mostly like in the country, which just so happens, I guess, to be mostly Republicans, or maybe it's not a coincidence. But like those people were immediately fighting against it, like, no, I we don't need a mask. Like it
I
doesn't do anything.
I think
Which is just
there's
like I like that exact thing. Like that's what I want to ask a Republican. It's like why did you what made you because that's where like our plans differ. Like we both don't like the pandemic. We both don't want to be at home or wear masks. But for some reason, yeah, the left is like, okay, let's follow what science is telling us, and the right
I don't
is not.
think I think there's I think there's a section of Republicans that's probably larger than we give credit for that were also mask wearers. I feel like the non-mask wearers are just so fucking loud that it seems like it's all of them, but it's really not. Like I think I share some like fiscally like policy things that I would agree with on the Republican side in some cases, but like I would never walk into a place if that as asking me to wear a mask and not wear one and be like, yeah, you should let me in here. Like that's fucking stupid on just another level. Like fuck the political part. Like so I don't know. Like I do know some people like especially in this town because our entire town is like is votes red, and basically like all of them had to do the mask mandate, and I know a lot of them did not like it, and they even like rallied against it in some small portions of the town at one point. But like for the most part, when we got in the grocery store, there were maybe one or two people who were trying to make a statement and not wearing a mask, but everyone else was wearing one. So like even them, I feel like they're not completely oblivious to the facts of like, all right, this is a pandemic. We just are better served by doing this one thing, even if it's like a minuscule benefit. Like everyone understood that, and even our hospitals enforced masks. Like they were like, you basically cannot be in here without one, and they were just handing them to people. So like they didn't might have not liked it, but they got their asses on board. And I feel like for you to just like be so defiant of that one thing, like for you there's so many things that you could pick that the left is bad at, and for you to pick the masks, that like you think that's the challenge to your liberty? Like no, like that's stupid.
So like I have a question also that it just kind of made me think like, okay, that's really interesting because like I have a different experience with what I have seen around my Republican parts. And like I so like when I'm just one question, I guess, for you, and then I'll get into my thing. But like when you drive down like away from your town and like
Mhm.
down like in the middle of nowhere, like if you're driving to Minneapolis or something and like
Mhm.
on your way back, do you see like Confederate flags and like really offensive like like fuck your feelings type of things like on the roads?
Fuck your
Like not on the
feelings.
roads, but like on like people's like properties like and signs
I
and stuff.
I can't recall ever seeing a Confederate flag. I've seen a lot of Trump signs, but like I don't think I've ever, and that's just in my town. There's a lot of Trump signs. Like that was the case like right before the election. So like that's just the way it. And even after, people just kept them up for years. But like what's crazy is like I've never seen a Confederate flag. I haven't seen one of those yet. But I do see a lot of stuff on like abortion stuff, like pro-life stuff, which I basically never see if I'm in a city. It's like the exact opposite. Like it's literally based on where you go, like you that determines like what kind of advertising you get.
So you must live in a place that has sensible Republicans then. Because when I drive up north here in Wisconsin, there's a lot of like really like racist, offensive things, like essentially.
Like what?
Like
Like
there are
what?
definitely Confederate flags like flying. I've seen things that are like like I'll shoot a black person and I'll do it again or something like that. It's like
Oh
it's
wow, I've
crazy.
never.
It's just
That's a crazy
like
thing to have.
yeah, yeah, like that's like normal, like up north in Wisconsin, like when you get far up there. Because like me and Lorraine, like, I wanted to go. I was like, I went through like an astronomy phase where I was like totally into. Is that the right thing? Yeah, I think so. Like where you're like into like stars and like the sky and like space and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I can get away from the city so I can actually like
Oh man,
see
that
like
makes
the
me.
sky with no light. And
Uh,
so I drove as far. I looked up on a map, like where in Wisconsin is the darkest place that I can like reasonably get to. And like, so we drove all the way there. And the entire journey, that entire trip, I was, every interaction, or not even interaction, just every person I saw, not every person, but like that, I was just very uncomfortable. Like, I saw lots of Confederate flags. I saw lots of yeah, those like racist things like I'll shoot a black person and I don't care, I'll do it again or like George Zimmerman is a hero or something like that. It's like yeah, and like so like and also it makes sense because like Wisconsin's always on like every election we're one of like the polarizing states like we're a purple state where it's like half of us are like this is terrible like you shouldn't do things this way and then the other half is like no that's terrible so like yeah it's like so from my perspective it seems like all the Republicans I meet are just anti-democrat like whatever a democrat does they just have to do the opposite so like it doesn't matter if it makes sense or not it just has to be the opposite of what a democrat does so like it is interesting to hear that like you don't see like crazy like far right things like that. Like Wisconsin, like we're definitely on like the chart of like someone's gonna try and like kidnap our governor. Like like we're on that realm of like polarization. And like I think that's the Republican I want to talk to and be like, why you be like that? Not necessarily like the ones you're talking about and like you live by. I feel like I can relate to that. Like they didn't like the mask, but they all did it. When I went up north during the pandemic, it was during the mask mandate. Not a single person wore a mask. In fact, we were about to walk into a store for the mask, but like there was so many like terrible anti-left and like racist things that like I didn't want to stick out by wearing a mask and like
and
us be the only mixed people in the entire place with like people like with Confederate flags on their trucks in the parking lot. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna not wear a
and
mask
maybe
in this store then.
maybe it's just my experience too, because like I remember Danielle saying like when people would ask about when people would come here from places where masks were common, like Chicago, like if my parents visited, right, and my mom would be like, well, how are people about wearing masks here? And like I know Danielle would always be like, well, no one really wears masks here. But like my experience was that most of the time they were wearing masks. Like I think again, it's one of those scenarios where like if you feel a certain way about it, you notice the people who aren't following that way a lot more than you notice the people who are just like falling in line. Like I feel like because I like was not necessarily like someone who wanted to have to wear a mask. I had noticed a lot of people with masks, but like I feel like people who strongly feel like okay, masks, we should have done masks. Like they notice the people who are like standing out and making a statement and not having like the masks on.
That's that's interesting. Yeah, I want to find one of those not one of those sensible people. I want to find the ones who are like no mask. Whatever the doctors say, that's what I'm gonna not do. Yeah, and then also I want to find like, and those are the same people who
I
like
think they just have a like
were
a
like
typical
pro storming the
distrust.
Capitol. Like, do you think people in your town like do they still think Biden like didn't win the election?
I think some of them probably do, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's very common here. Like, I don't think I've ever met a Republican here that thinks Biden is the legitimate president. Or maybe they're just afraid to like say that or like speak out against other fellow Republicans. I don't know.
I mean, where would they be where they need to say that to each other though? Like in this town, like the average age is like probably much older than me. So like they're not they're not like in places where they would be speaking out about that kind of thing. Like unless they're just with friends of theirs, but if they are with friends, they probably already have like some of the same political ties.
And they don't have, like, don't you like shoot the shit and be like, yeah, isn't it crazy that this is going on? And this is, even though you have the same like views, you'll still talk about it. Maybe you just haven't like, yeah, I can't see you as like the friend
But
making type.
no. I'm saying those type of people who would live here wouldn't be afraid. I don't feel like to say what they thought if that was the case.
Right. So like you're expecting that you should have heard more of that by now
Right.
or
Yeah.
something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Which yeah, that does definitely make sense. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't take long. It was a for me it was a literally a 24-hour trip. I was back home in less than a day and I saw the most terrible things. Like yeah, it
The
was like
most
the people
terrible.
here, they're ready to go to war. Like they're ready to like yeah, they're not they're not fucking around. Like
I don't.
yeah,
I don't
Wait,
believe. I don't believe they're going to war.
wait,
they
in
do.
presidential elections, is Minnesota considered a battleground state?
No.
Okay.
No. It's overall. It's blue.
Yeah. It's Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Florida, Arizona, and I think that's basically it. And sometimes Michigan.
Uh,
Those are like the five. They have a name for it, but like yeah, it's every election they always talk about like those five states, and it's always Wisconsin.
like, isn't that what makes it more likely for us to like run into that kind of like deeply polarizing shit? Because like we're split so heavily in like either side that depending on what side is more loud in the election, like it'll turn the whole state.
That's true. So like because we are so close that we get the most propaganda, we're probably amongst the five states that get the most propaganda on both sides. Yeah, that is probably definitely true. Like
Yeah. I would I would just imagine or guess, and tell me if I'm wrong, John, but I would imagine that your your like exposure to like incendiary politics was higher in the Milwaukee, and maybe even like the whatever the city that you lived in before than where you are now.
Uh, no. I feel like I see more of that here. Yeah, I feel like I see more of that here. But I guess
Okay.
I don't know. What do you mean by incendiary? Like, how would I know that that's like? Are you talking about the stuff that Valero sees? Because like that, I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like
If you're talking
people,
about that level, no, I've never been around anyone who's done anything that crazy.
okay. But you don't see any signs like in lawns that besides the pro-life stuff that makes it seem like they are ready to be antagonistic to someone who disagrees with them.
No, I see just lots of this is what I think and that's that sort of idea.
Yeah,
Right?
that's a
Because
great way of putting it.
because where I live, I see a lot of signs like, but on the left side of things, like for Democrats, where they're like,
Yeah.
everyone is equal, and like, I'm not saying that's like a wrong idea. Obviously, that's a great idea. But if I was on the other side, that would seem like antagonistic to me. So like
Well,
the
Oh,
same way
everyone
that
really?
is
you see
equal?
I
That's
know, I'm not saying
insane.
that that's like, yeah, it is insane, but like for them,
Well, okay, so
they
what's
might think that
crazy?
that's crazy.
What's
I
crazy
know.
is
So I'm
I
just
can't
saying
You're
you have
even.
right.
to
You're right.
realize
So
that
what's
it's the same thing for them.
right, but I actually can in some ways understand why that might be just because I've been around this kind of people now like for a little while, and I can kind of understand why they would feel that's antagonistic. I think they believe that it's part of a larger like agenda that is to sort of morph that there is no difference between men and women, and that it doesn't matter if you're strong or weak or if you do anything, or like to have like all of the things that they hold dear as like family values, they feel like are directly being assaulted. And there's this whole watered down idea of like everyone's equal could also be taken to mean we have no differences or no meaningful differences, and that's why we have to always like, unless it's like race or being like trans, something like that. And I know that's how those people think about it. It feels like they're saying that it's you're not special unless you're part of like a minority group. Like that's that's how a lot of them, I'm sure, take it.
Yeah, for sure.
Wait, what? They take it as like the left is saying that you're like they're like anyone isn't special unless they're a part of a minority group.
Right, like there's like nobody's special unless you're part of like a very specific select group of people, because all of the equality movement things are talking about all of the minority groups. Now, obviously the reason they're doing that is because they feel that they've been marginalized, but the people on this side of that don't feel that the marginalization is so great that it needs a movement.
Like, okay. So like that sounds like honestly a reasonable argument that I could maybe hear from the other
Right,
side.
right, but like you would
It's
never
like,
hear that
okay,
unless you heard it from
they're
somebody
not
like me.
on right, like they don't believe that way because they just don't understand
Mhm.
like the marginalization that's happening, or they don't see it as a problem because obviously they're not around it and they're a part of the top race in this country.
But
Like,
like but even them, like, so like I this is another argument that like I've heard from people who say like men have been on top of women for so long. Like I feel like a lot of times, and again, this is actually part of the argument that I would hear from a Republican that I would agree with. I think a lot of times we like make a very small minority of people who make bad decisions, and like we take them and extrapolate them to the entire population as if all of these people had like tyrannical power. Like when people talk about how women didn't have any rights, like most men didn't have any rights either. Like when like it was super early in the early days of America. The same way like we talk about that, I feel like a lot of white people were just as fucking poor as like obviously they weren't getting beaten all the time. Like not every single one of them was a slave, but like none of them were like a lot of them weren't fucking living lavish. Like, and I think that's how the people who are here feel like a lot of them, like a lot of those people have been like farming the land for like I don't know how many fucking years. A lot of them have a lot of history and shit here. So like in their minds they feel like they put in a lot of work, and to like to suggest that this superiority they have is like benefiting them doesn't really make sense to them, because like nobody is here but them to work the land.
that's
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
that does not make sense to me. Just based off the fake fact that like
Like how would
I
it
guess
benefit
like
them is the
I would
question.
consider. Wait, say that again.
The question they would ask you is how did it benefit them? Like they're working in like a farm position. They like it's just take a farmer for example. Like say there's a guy here that works a farm, one of those fields that is out there. Like and his like just say his family has been in this business, been in that business for like generations or some shit. Like they've always lived on the farm and worked there, and like maybe they moved around town and did some other things in town, like maybe accounting or some shit. But they always had this family farm that everyone contributed to. Like in their minds, how is them having a family farm like how is that privilege?
That's crazy because like I feel like my answer to that would be, and this kind of goes back to like our conversation we were having on the last podcast about whether North Korea is a decent place to live or not. And like my answer to that is like choices. Like because you have more options, that alone makes your quality of life better. Like so like
So I think
the men could always just be like, you know what? I don't like this farm life. Just walk right away. And like they can go get a job in another city easily and start a whole new life. No one
Right.
would ever care or know.
That
But
was
women have
true.
never had that option
But that was
up
true in
until
the
very
well, I was
recently.
gonna say, but that was true in the past. But like, for how many years has that not been true? So like the for like again, and I agree.
Not many.
Right, but I agree with the idea that like at a certain point, when are we gonna say, okay, like we've had choice for long enough to start seeing those choices bear out, and like to have that group of people be doing better. Like at a certain
But
point, we can't
how,
simply like bait the past like forever. I'm not saying it's not relevant
you're
now.
right.
It is, but like
But
how
it
long?
just
Like
seems crazy to talk about that or bring that subject up when they're not equal yet. Like the women's soccer team just got the same pay like this year. Like so it's still happening now. So to bring up, oh, why are we talking about it? At some point you
the
gotta
the
give
so
it up.
the
Like
soccer
it's
the
crazy.
soccer
Like
wait, the soccer team.
they're still at the bottom. Yeah,
Did the women's soccer? I have I have no knowledge
yeah.
of the women's soccer team thing, but I was gonna ask, did they like bring in more revenue than the guys, and they were just not getting paid as much?
No, they do the same amount of work and do the exact same
Huh. Well,
thing for their
that's
country.
okay, but that's revenue based. Like that has nothing to do with what you do. It's about what you bring in.
I mean,
It's the same reason why male basketball players make ginormous amounts of money more than women basketball players. The WNBA as a business is a failing business. Why would we pay those people more money for the failing business they're producing? That makes no sense.
it's yeah, they bring in more money, I guess. Like
That's the
maybe
whole
you,
point.
I guess,
That's the whole
sell
point.
more. But the women literally do better. Like they won the World Cup. They're the best in the world. Like plus, like
Okay,
both the
that
men's
result
and the women team are. It's not a business. Like it's
it
just like
is.
the national team. It's like more politics than anything. You spend money.
You
Like
think
this
the
is all
put
paid for by the government. Like you
you
spend
don't
money,
think the Olympic
send your
teams
soccer team in,
You don't
and
think
like
the
hopefully it
Olympic
builds up
teams and the
morale.
national teams is a business? Are you kidding? Like they have bids for the Olympics. Like it's absolutely a business. And every single country has their own way of profiting from that business through having a national team. You don't think they
Yeah,
sell
but
merchandise for the national team?
the business, that's just crazy. Like your argument is literally that men are doing better work and so because of
Are
that,
you saying that
they should be
objectively you
getting
think
paid
wait,
more.
wait, no, no,
Like
no,
that's
no.
just crazy.
Let me ask you
Like
something. Are you
when the
saying
women
are
have
you
literally won the World Cup, but just because not as many
No,
people watch them,
I didn't
they
say
should.
they're doing I didn't say they're
Okay,
better
so
at their
then please
sport.
explain what you have said.
I'm saying to you that it's quite literally a business. It's about what people care about, not how good your output is. In some cases, it is about your output because in basketball, there are people who are faster and stronger and doing things that are more athletic than the other team by just default. Like some of those sports where like there's required physicality, some of those teams are going to be able to dominate the women's teams even at lower levels. Like we've seen this with basketball, soccer, like obviously there's not many women's football leagues, but like there are several sports that women also play. Oh, baseball, like there are several sports that women also play where they might be just as good relative to the other women, but they're not producing as much as the men are. So like to ignore that just because it doesn't feel good, like yeah, I'm not saying they're worse at the sport relative to the other women. I'm saying if you put them on a field with the other men, that would be a crushing defeat. That's the whole point of why we have the segregation of the sport. And a lot of people are typically guided closer to the things that are happening faster and quicker, especially in the USA. Like that's a lot of why basketball is popular. It's just fast paced. So like the reason people are drawn to basketball is part of the fast paced nature. Like fast breaks are a huge part of basketball. Like fast breaks in the WNBA are fucking slow. They just are. So like I just don't know what to say. Like what does it feel good? No. Am I saying they're bad basketball players? No. I'm saying people care more about the male sport because it seems to be more exciting. More exciting and athletic things are happening, and that's a big part of basketball. Like you can market it all you'd like, and there might be a market for people who want to watch women's basketball because they like the skill set part of the game. That's fine, but to pretend that like we just should care about them equally as if they're equal is just that's nuts. They're literally two different things that are
So,
happening.
so do you believe that the women's soccer team should get paid as much as the guys?
No, I think you should get paid relative to what you produce. If the women's team brings in more money, then they should make more money. It's the same way I would never. I would like it, what the argument you're making essentially is like this is on me taking the logic and trying to apply it elsewhere. If I'm wrong, then you tell me. But this is what it feels like you're saying. If a guy is in a woman-dominated sport, he should make or a woman-dominated industry, he should make just as much money regardless of what his income is that he brings in, just because he's doing the same type of job. So like a guy, do you think a guy in
I completely agree with that logic.
Okay, so do
Like,
you
I
think
feel
a guy
like
do you think a
as
guy
an
OnlyFans
employee-
person wait, do you think a guy on OnlyFans should make exactly what all the women make on OnlyFans?
When you're an OnlyFans person, you are the business owner. You're purely commission. You are the person. So like,
You don't think
that-
LeBron
that-
James'
there is no
contract
one
has to do with how
setting your
many
pay.
seats he fills?
That's irrelevant to me. Like
That's what it's based on.
That has
That's what it's
nothing
based
to do
on.
with.
That's why his pay is so large. It's literally the entire point. Like you're saying it doesn't matter, but like it literally is why they get paid that much. You're saying like they should just be equal, but you're missing the reason they're not equal.
That doesn't make sense. The reason they're equal is because they're both doing the exact same thing you asked them to. Whether one has a better output or is viewed better, they both work equally as hard and doing the same amount of work.
So let me
So,
understand something.
How is
Are you
it
saying
fair that one gets paid more than the other? Like
because it's sales? It's literally sales. It's just another version of sales.
Okay, so as a business owner, I feel like you can like reap the benefits of that or whatever, and I can be a women owner, male owner, it doesn't even matter. But like as a business owner, I feel like that's insanely wrong for me to say my girl employee should write a 1,000 word essay and my boy employee should write a 1,000 word essay. And because more people applauded the girl one.
That's not the same.
Even though they both wrote an equally good essay, how is that not the same?
Because the essay isn't equally as good. People the essay is who decides what the essay is based on what the people think. So to ignore what the people think when that's the whole point of writing the essay is insane. This isn't a thought experiment where you just have two people doing a task and you just want to know how good they are so that you can personally pay them what you feel is worth. That's not how businesses are run. Like you're telling like on that logic, you would pay someone who like a salesperson that's producing 3 or 4 times as much as another salesperson the exact same pay and like have no difference in their commission over a year just because they quote unquote do the same work. One of them is doing their job better.
Again, that's a commission job. Like
that, I'm saying that every job that is in entertainment is a form of a sales-based, as a commission-based sales job. Like it just doesn't. It is because LeBron James's contract. LeBron James's contract is based on is partially based on how many people want to see LeBron James.
That's not true. Like when players just get a contract, like it's just there's one pay, like whether they do good that year or not. Like it's just.
No, but when they re-sign contracts, it's based on both what the people think, what that team owners thinks they're going to produce, and also what they've produced in that prior contract. Their performance is part of what is putting seats in like people in the seats. So like the fact that LeBron James, for example, has won several championships, people want to see him. He's like getting very close to like having the all-time like fucking points record soon. Like I don't know, I think he can pass it sometime in this year. Where like he'll be the leading scorer in the NBA.
The flaw in your logic now, or at least something that you should address. So like,
what's the flaw?
The difference here is that the U.S. women's team have literally outperformed the men's team in all their competitions by massively.
Okay.
So like,
and are they producing?
Bring in more viewers. So like,
so then the viewers don't care about that.
Hold on. Your logic is right. Viewers don't care. They just
want
to watch men. Period.
No, right. In soccer, they don't care about that. Right.
They don't care about the success.
Right.
So like, it's not. Oh,
that's not my logic for
better,
that.
So that's why they're getting paid better.
That's the logic. That's the reason in That's the reason in basketball. That's quite the reason in basketball. In soccer, you're saying that the women perform better and than the men. I've heard that exact same thing. But to your point, they could still just prefer to watch the men if the game is faster. I don't know why, but you can't eliminate those people's preferences.
Because of that, it's fair to just
Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
that's where
you
we
got into a
disagree. You're
yeah, you
saying
got
it
into a
is fair.
sport. Yeah, how are you going to get into a sport where you know that the reasoning that like part of you getting into a sport should also consider like how what your pay is going to be based on eventually. Like I understand that you love that
That's
thing, but like you got to
exactly
know
what has
that.
created the whole entire environment where someone can be marginalized. Because if you say, oh, well, if I get into this industry, I can never get paid that well, so I'll never get into it. That is the definition of marginalization. Like
No,
that's
because the
exactly
pay the
what
pay
causes that.
no, because the pay isn't based on something trivial about like the about something that like is completely irrelevant to the sport. Something like
It is. It's
it's
based on
not.
the fact that it's
It's not
the gender.
irrelevant. It's not irrelevant to the sport. If I like watching the sport be played at a faster pace, that's not irrelevant if the women's game is slower.
It's
That's a
not
relevant
slower though.
detail.
The women won. They
No,
literally
I'm
are
not. No,
better
no, 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 no,
than the
no,
guys
no, no,
too.
no.
And
I'm
like
not
it's the
talking
same
about.
thing
No, I'm not
with
saying speed and winning are the same thing. Like literally, the game is faster. Like I know people who have like favorite soccer
you're
teams who are
when
terrible.
you break it down, the argument you're trying to say right now is that the women are not as good as the men.
No, I'm
And
not
that is
saying that.
why.
I'm saying people like
You
what
just
they.
said the women are faster and people like watching that
No,
more.
I
You're
didn't.
saying
I
that's
did not.
better.
I did
How is
not
that
say.
not saying
I
they're
did
not
not.
better? I got
So
What's the difference
because I
between
just
saying
I
they're
just
better and
said
they're faster?
I just said faster isn't better because obviously if you're saying better is
What?
based on results, then the women have the results. So I'm saying that the men can be
Okay,
faster at the sport,
so
and
why do people watch the men then?
that could be one of the reasons. You'd have to ask them why. I don't watch much
I'm
soccer, but
asking you. You're the one who thinks that women shouldn't get paid as much as men. So I'm
no,
asking you, yeah, why?
I'm saying that people should get paid on what they produce. You can't, and you shouldn't try to change the preferences so that of other people so that you can change what you produce. You should just try to
And
produce
I'm
more.
saying that's wrong because that exact mentality is what makes it so people can never even get a chance to produce to begin with.
They can okay, it's not that you can't produce just because you're producing a small amount now. Like the same way the NBA was small, like eventually they had to do things to grow that business. Like the NBA wasn't always this large conglomerate. Like it's possible to be small and grow. This idea that you have to necessarily make everyone's minds change to the way you think in order to like grow as a business is nuts. Like that makes no sense. That's not
What do you mean?
marginalizing anyone. They have the ability. The NBA, the WNBA, and the NBA are basically like from financially are one entity because the WNBA is being funded by the NBA. They're doing things right now so to put the WNBA in front of more people, like through things like advertising, working with NBA players. They're taking that step right now. So this idea of like, oh, they're just got to change the other people's opinions. No, they're just showing the merits more of their sport. They're doing what they're supposed to do, and probably over time, the knowledge and awareness and like people's like of the NBA will grow.
So your point being,
My point is that they're not marginalized. They're just young. It's just a young business, just like everything else.
that's insane. But you said they're not marginalized, but yet you said they just now started putting the women out. But meanwhile, they've been doing
No,
the men this whole
no,
time. That's what you just said.
no. I said the NBA is a young business. I don't think that the
Yeah, you
WNBA
said,
is
and you
marginalized
said
though.
they both. That's what you just said. They both started at the same time, and they both had opportunities to become big, but then they didn't. So
No,
now the
I didn't say they.
NBA is like working on that.
No, I didn't say they both
I
started at the same time and they both had chances to get bigger. When did I never said that.
That's what I thought you were
No, I
saying
said
by
the
like
WNBA is a young business. It is a
you.
very young business. Now, if we're talking about the reasons why like the business itself didn't start as fast as it did, I can agree with you all day that that part of growth was marginalized, but like the WNBA players today, like like those people aren't being marginalized by not being paid based on what people think of the WNBA. The WNBA is a sport. It just isn't quite as fast, and that's not never going to be like that's never going to be a symptom of like their growth. Like some things are just going to be different, and that doesn't make the WNBA worse. It's just one of the realities. Like they are slower players because there are women there. Even the top athletes of both sports, the men are going to be faster on average, just like sprinting. Like that doesn't mean that women sprinting is worse. like I watch women sprinters all the time, and they're just as like good relative to the other women. Doesn't make them worse. I'm just saying that some things are different. Like we can't just be like, well, no, if someone wants to watch something that's faster, like that's not right because it's a preference that's not like. Basically, you're saying it's a preference that's not relevant to the game. Like that has a huge relevance to most games that are athletic.
Yeah, you just went back to the point where like the guys are faster, so that's why I watch them. But I already disproved that because the women literally did better in their
But
tournaments.
but you keep
But they
equating to
still watch
you
the
keep saying
they
did
still watch the
better,
guys.
but you keep saying did better and acting as if that's the same thing as faster, and it's not. To be so
I
a
mean,
sport can literally run faster. Like there can be literally more speed, literally more like force output or what. I don't know where the fucking formula for speed, but like it's literally people are literally moving around faster. Like the sport is played at a faster pace, and you could still have worse results than someone who like than the women's team, like you said, who actually is clobbering their sport. Like I'm not saying that
well, I
speed
mean
is just
that's really just for sports. I mean, if you take it
that's
back
what we're
to the person
talking
who writes
about.
an essay, no, we're talking about the whole industry. Like I just
What
use the sports
I thought
thing
I thought
because
sports was
we
the
first
industry we
started
were
talking
talking about.
about.
Sorry.
No, we first started talking about how you can kind of agree with the fact that women don't need to
Yeah.
be paid
Well, that's
in
a
as equal in most ways. And then I immediately brought up
yeah,
because
sports. You brought
they're
up
not as
sports, and that.
marginalized as everyone thinks. And I'm like, how can you bring that up? Like the
But you
women's
brought
soccer
right,
team
but you brought
just
up
now started
sports
getting
though.
paid. And then that's when we started bringing up sports. But like really the whole point is like that I'm trying to argue that women
Uh,
deserve to be paid just
but
as much as men.
but what
And
I'm
like I
saying
use the
is,
sports thing.
but the
But
sports
like
thing,
if you
I don't
take
think
it
pay is based on what you think it is for sports. It's not like if you just win all the time, that necessarily means that you're going to be liked. Like a good example is just in football, and that's all men. The most
you're
the
saying
most
right,
the
I
most
understand what you're saying. And you're saying because of that they deserve to get paid less. And I'm saying because of that mentality, that's what makes them paid less
but
to
you're
begin with.
okay, but you're
Like
so the reality of business makes them not want to get into the sport. Like that's silly. Like what are you saying? Like that's a reality. You can't change the
of course.
reality of like how.
That's not
Okay,
you can
but who
absolutely
cares?
change the reality. We're the ones in charge.
But it
Like,
doesn't mean you
yes,
can change how people
we're
think.
doing it. Just like you said, the WNBA is growing. Like they'll get there eventually. Like
Yeah,
that's
but that doesn't.
exactly it. Like
Yeah,
we're
but that
changing
doesn't.
the reality.
No, that doesn't mean I'm not saying that you can't like get more people to like parts of your sport. I'm saying there's always going to be some people who prefer one sport more than the other. And if that continues to be the NBA, I don't think that means that the WNBA is marginalized. I'm not saying you can't change people's minds to the fact that
That's
there might be some
crazy.
value there.
Okay, hold on. What does marginalized mean? Like
I feel like
define
you feeling marginalized is anything less than 50%,
marginalized.
and that's just silly. Like there's never going to be a 50% on anything. It doesn't mean the other person's getting marginalized.
It says a person or group that is treated as uh, insignificant or peripheral, which means peripheral. I'm not even sure what they mean exactly about that.
If you're getting, I mean, if that's by that definition, if you're getting treated that way, like I think in any other job other than sports, we would not think of marginalized in the way that we do now, like for sports. Like I don't think if someone paid you less money because you performed necessarily worse than what their expectations were. And again, I'm using say sports is a sales thing. So like when they say
But it's
as
not
much as you're worth,
expectations.
that's part of the expectation because like I was gonna say with football, the Dallas Cowboys is one of the most like valuable franchises. They haven't won a fucking Super Bowl or even sniffed a fucking like good playoff opportunity in like decades. Like they're terrible. They're not like garbage. Like they always have a chance, but like no one's like yeah the Cowboys. They're really a shoe in to win, but they're the most valuable part of because how the owner like markets them, and that's literally he said that he said out loud like to reporters that that's what's most important to him, that people care about being in the seats, not necessarily that we're bringing home Lombardi trophies. Like I'm telling you, these people think that way. Like so like I don't think that that's unreasonable reasonable if the goal again is business, and in any other business where your job was to meet an output, and again the output for these people is butts in seats. If any other job that was what we were saying, you have to like meet this output and you weren't meeting it, you'd be and you got paid less. No one would even like consider that marginalized. You'd just be saying,
So
oh,
like
well, you're
just
paid in relation to what you produce.
right, exactly what you're saying is as long as whatever group is making more money, it's the right to continue paying that group more than the other group, even if they do the exact same thing.
If they're producing more, yes, because that's how businesses work.
So okay, yeah. So I think you've made your point then, yeah. And that's where we
I,
differ. I feel
I
like
don't understand why anyone would think a business would run any different than that. Like the whole point of being a business is to make money, and if you're not doing the thing related to making money, why would you be paid as much as someone who's doing more of that? Like that makes absolutely no sense.
and I think the difference, and that makes sense that you think that way. And I think the difference is I put, I guess, like moral arguments above making money for certain things. Like I wouldn't sell anything to the Nazis if it meant I can get rich because I feel like the Nazis are bad people. So
Well, I
like
mean, yeah, that's a pretty
I
easy
would
one.
want to pay everyone equally because that's I feel like to give a
So
group
you
that doesn't have access to give them the opportunity the same opportunities that every other group. I feel like that's morally worth not making
so
as
in your
much money in
company
business.
so in your company the CEO and the janitor make the same amount of income. Like in your perfect company.
Honestly, in my perfect company, it's like comparable. Like, sure, yeah, honestly, yeah.
Okay. Yep, and that's just where we fundamentally differ. I don't understand why you would why you would subsidize something that like again, I relate it to what other people can do too, like in a bit in that scenario, like a, a janitor can be done by many people. I don't think many people can successfully run large scale businesses. So like I would
And
value
I
that more if that's the goal. Again, a business, but like if the goal of your business is to just be a moral output, then you should just start a charity. Like why even set out for profit at all? Just like give them the money and let them go about their day.
Jesus
If
Christ.
the out like literally, if you're saying the production doesn't matter, why are we tying pay to production at all then? Like just give them the money.
No one ever said production doesn't matter. We just think morals are more important than
But
production.
like
But
the line is so weird because you're saying that like I don't understand where the line is though because you're saying it doesn't. You
how is
said
it weird?
because you're saying it matters.
I don't want to sell weapons to
It
the Nazis.
it
Like,
sound no no
but
it
I want to
sounds
sell
good.
weapons to everyone
Yeah
else.
yeah
Like,
it
how is
sounds
that weird?
it sounds good in a really like in a really like obvious extremes like we like the Nazis, but like it doesn't really make sense when you're talking about things like okay output. Like you're saying that you want someone you're saying that someone who like can do there's less people who can do what this person
oh,
does and
I
you want to
have
pay them the same as something that someone that most people can do. Like
I
that's just
understand
that's
what you're.
strange.
I understand what you're asking about,
Like
and
and
I
if that's
see
the
it
case,
as
yeah, if that's the case, again, you're saying production matters, but it doesn't matter enough to for pay to be tied to production. Okay, so then in what capacity does it matter then?
okay. The whole purpose of the moral argument of bringing groups, marginalized groups, in equality with groups, all other groups, essentially, is because in theory, uh, if you have more people doing one thing, you'll have m- more output, essentially. Uh,
Yeah,
there'll be more
that's
people who can
that's a
discover
strange,
something. There'll be more people who can get good and like be the best at something. But if you
yeah.
only let one group do one thing, then only that group is ever going to do it. Meanwhile, you can
Well,
have
that's
the
a
most
fine
brilliant
theory.
scientist amongst the women field, or like the best soccer player, or the best anything in the marginalized
Yeah,
group, but they will never ever try because
well,
they don't get paid, and
that's a
it's not
fine
worth
theory if you're just hiring everyone, but part of the hiring requirement also has to be competence. You can't like the idea that like oh well you like if
it.
again
And I
like you
was
said
just
like
for
you said
in
just
our
like casting
argument,
a
the
wide.
competence is the same. You can't argue that women are less competent than men.
No, I'm not
Like
saying
that's not an argument.
no, I'm not saying that women on average are less competent than men or less like or less capable than men
You
in
just
term.
said you're hiring on competence, and we're talking about
No,
men
I'm
and women.
okay. Can you let me just get through this thought so I can tell you what I'm saying?
I feel like we go through this constantly whenever we debate something. You say something,
Because
and I'm just like,
I
do you
say
realize what you just said? And you're like, hold
no.
on, let me back this up and just completely
No,
undo
because
all that.
you
It's
don't
so
actually
annoying
repeat.
because whenever I
You
try
don't
to
actually
pin you
repeat
to
what
like
I
something you
say.
say wrong, you just go back and change it into something different. I was like, this is
I've been
I
saying
can't
the
win this
same. I've
argument.
been saying the same thing every time, but you take parts of what I say and then you just run with that instead of considering the entire thing I said as if it's not a full sentence. Like I'll say, in some cases I think X, Y, and Z, and you'll just be like, you just said you think X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, I said other things after that. Like I'm telling you that there's more to what I'm saying. Like I'm just
What?
that's what I'm saying. Let me get through it, and you might understand why I'm saying that.
Okay, but you just keep ending up to the same thing. It's that yeah, you just think as long as they're making more money, they should get paid more. Like that's what we always boil it down to. And then I'm just like, do you realize what you're saying? And then you're like, okay, let's
Yeah,
bring it back
I
and bring
do
it all the way
realize,
back
but I
around.
do realize that
So
that's what I'm
like,
saying. I'm saying if you produce that generally in business, if you produce more, that because in most cases of most businesses, the goal is to make money, that's what would be your priority. Now, if your priority is some other thing, like you said, like you just want everything to be equitable, then it doesn't really make sense in my mind to call it a business then. Because business in
no, the
general,
priority is to get everyone into doing something so you can have more good
and
people. That's
that's
really the end of the
okay. And
story.
I would argue that that seems more like more like philanthropy than business. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's a bad. I'm
Right,
not saying
and
it's
then
a
you went
bad
in to
thing.
say that you have to hire on competence, in which case the men are
Right,
making more,
I'm saying
which is saying that the women are less competent than the men. Which I'm
no,
like, do you realize
no,
what you are saying
I'm
here?
not saying that. I'm saying in business that has to be part of the equation. I'm saying you can't simply hire on just the one thing that you're saying of like this. I want this equity share amongst everyone. If someone can do a job better than someone else, whether it be a man or a woman, like I would expect a woman who can do a job better than a man to make more than him too. And that happens in a lot of cases. Like for example, like the nursing field is like predominantly women. Like
So don't
and they
argue
make
my
great
side.
money.
Argue your side.
No, I'm arguing. I'm not arguing a side. I'm saying that you should always make more money if you're better at something. I'm not saying that
Right. And you're
that no
saying
in
that the
no
men
case.
are better at something, so they should always get paid more than the women.
I'm saying if there's more demand for the thing that the men are producing, then saying that it's just not okay because it's men and women when in every other case we're okay with that inequality. We're okay just saying okay, if someone produces more they're just going to get more. Like it doesn't make sense to just draw the line here just because it's men and women. Like that this idea that like that this is the only inequity. Like there's a bunch of inequities across multiple categories that exist that none of us even care about. Like I don't understand why
Who
like
says no one cares about it? Isn't that like
because
what I'm fighting for? Like the equity? So like
no,
in our
you're
in our
picking
universe, there's
you're
me
picking
and
one
there's you.
category. You're
So
picking
like half of us care and half of us don't.
no,
Like maybe
you're
you
picking
don't care,
no,
but
you're
I do.
picking one. You picked one category. We talked about men and women. We picked one category, and if you're saying like again, we talked about like your perfect universe. If you're saying in your perfect universe, everyone in on the face of the planet gets paid the exact same amount of salary, no matter what they do, because they're all equal, and that's what matters. That the fact that everyone's equal. Then okay, you got me. Like that makes perfect sense to me, and I'm not arguing
I
against that. I'm saying in
That's
this
a bit
world, that's not.
extreme.
Well, I'm
If
saying
you
in
do
this
the
world.
exact same thing, you get paid. Not every single person is equal, but like if you're doing the exact same thing as
Why draw the
person
line at
A,
what they why draw the line at the fact that the job is the same? I mean, if it's just about equality, like what?
not just the job, but like they're literally doing like I tell person A to go clean my room, and I go tell person B to go clean my room.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't matter how much people like the room
It
A
matters
more
how
than they like
it
room
it
B,
matters how
just
much
because
you
room
like it
A
because
was
you're the
cleaned by a
client.
boy. They both did the exact same thing. So I just feel
Okay,
like, yeah, I
but
feel like
cleaning a
that
room,
deserves.
cleaning a room is. I'm saying you're acting as if the products are the same simply because the outcomes could be the same. And I'm saying in sports it doesn't work that way. Like this idea of like, oh well, the women's team like they won, so they should just
But
make
it's
more.
just
It
sports, I guess. But like that's
yeah,
not the
sports.
entire like men and women in general. Like most things aren't sports. I guess I regret bringing up the sports analogy because that is like literally the one area where technically men are literally faster and stronger than women.
Right,
But
that's what I'm
like, I was
saying.
trying to
Like
bring
we're
it up because they performed better. But like, okay,
right.
throw the sports thing out of
Well,
the way
let
because
me
that
ask you.
literally
Do
is
you know?
something.
All right, first throw that away. Do you know of another like? And I don't. I'm saying I'm literally asking this because I don't know. Do you know of another industry where women are producing more than men but making less? I don't know. I don't
As
know of
far as
any.
I know, that's every single
That's
industry.
simply not true. When the gender pay gap thing, like if you actually account for all the other categories of difference between people, the gender pay gap thing is not what you think it is. Like this idea of like, oh, just because men over here make more money, then they must necessarily like there must be marginalized women. Like we talked about, I think you and I talked about this a
But you
couple weeks
don't
ago.
believe in the gender pay cap?
No, I believe that men on average make more than
Not
women.
not
That's
pay cap.
true. I believe that men on average make more than women. That is true. But the difference is I don't think that's a patriarchal like marginalizing of women because if you account for the other things that they of like choice, like for example, you and I talked about this, like 99 like most men are working like dangerous jobs. They're also working like jobs that other people don't want, garbage, sewage, like bricklayers, that kind of shit. Like those jobs also pay a lot. So that takes into account for like a large portion of like the on average across all fields why men would make more. Like so this idea that like it's
Okay,
just
do you
because of
understand
patriarchy is
why only
crazy.
men are working in those jobs? I think that's what the difference between us. Because, like,
You think
I
women just
understand
are
that
kept
men
out of
are
those
in those
positions?
jobs to begin with because women never had the option to go get those jobs up
You
until
don't
very,
think
very recently.
how
Like,
recently
the
is
last
recently?
decade, basically. Like, the last, like the year 2000 and past, like,
You don't
basically.
think women
If
could have been bricklayers and electricians and
my aunt
until
is
10
actually that,
2010?
and you know, I actually know for a fact they really couldn't be. Like, if you were a woman in that industry, you would be driven out. Absolutely. Like,
You
up
would be
until
driven out.
literally the
What does that mean?
they're gonna make your life a living hell because you're not gonna hear the end of it. Like, it's like you will experience
So you're
the
saying
most amount of sexism possible.
right, so you're saying
Like,
you're treated bad.
absolutely.
So you're saying you're treated badly, so that would be the reason why we wouldn't see more of all of those jobs that in every category that men make up more than women in.
Yes, like
In
obviously, like
every single
if
one.
if
So
they're
let me
all
well,
men
okay, no,
and the
I
moment
want to
a
make sure I
woman
understand
comes
what you're
in, they're
saying.
just like, fuck that woman.
Okay, so
We're the only
let
woman
me just
here. We don't like them. Then
I was
like
just
it's
making
gonna be
sure.
hard for all women to start in any industry.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I was hearing you correctly because I just wanted to make sure because I was going to ask you another follow-up question. Why do you think that men aren't entering women-dominated industries? Do you think that the reasoning is the same is because they've been marginalized in those areas
Wait, what did you say? You said why do
in
I think
industry?
men are
No, no.
entering women-dominated
I saying
industries?
I'm saying why do you think they aren't in women dominated industries as much? And do you think part of the reason they're not in women dominated industries, like for example nursing, do you think that also is because men have been marginalized?
Yes, I would say absolutely. If you were up until,
How
I would
how
say actually
so?
probably the same thing up until probably the year 2000, 2010. If you were a man and you tried to go to nursing school, you were gonna fucking get it. Like you'd be called gay. You're gonna be
Being
like, this
called
guy's a
names.
bitch. Absolutely.
Being called names is what you're saying is keeping everyone out of these positions.
Yeah, I mean, like, haven't you experienced racism or any sort of like
Not
bullying or anything
not
before? It's more
not
than just name calling. Like, they
not
definitely,
enough.
it gets to you.
I've never
Like, they get
experienced
to your
enough.
soul until it's just like, okay, working here isn't worth it if I have to deal with this every day. And even though, yeah, they're not assaulting you or like putting hands on you, it's
Right.
just words, but like, that's
Yeah.
still harassment. Like, today you can get sued for things like that. Like, it's
And
illegal, and
are
that's
you
only a
saying you
very
feel like
recent thing.
are you saying you feel like you couldn't sue people for that before?
No, you would get one. It
Up
wasn't even a thing.
up until 20 years ago, you're saying.
Yeah, we were alive. We were like adults when you could sue for like emotional. I forget what they call it, but yeah, like now you can get sued. That was like a very, very recent thing. Like I think before the only thing you can get sued for was like sexual harassment, basically. Like obviously, like you can't like touch someone or try and like rape them just because you're their employee or something like that. But like, yeah, no, that was a very recent like thing that you couldn't get The only rebuttal you had as an employee, if you experience that in the workplace, is to quit.
Okay.
Or maybe you can unionize and like hopefully a union can get in and
I
like
I was
change
just
like the dynamic.
I was just making sure that your stance was not that just women are marginalized, because it started to sound like you were saying in all of these places that like women have no upper hand. There's just nothing they can do. But I guess you're saying that for everyone who's not represented at 50-50 or like close to it, I guess, in every field. Like so like then my question would be for you, like what do you think is an appropriate distribution? Like do you think cuz I've actually looked into one of the studies, like where they basically they had like quotas in I think it was Scotland or something. I don't remember where it was, but basically have quotas trying to get men and women and of all races and colors and creeds into every job possible so they can have everyone represented. And what they found is when they gave people as much choice as possible, like put up programs and flyers and like incentives for people to come in, people shied away from those industries even more, and people like reverted back to like what I guess you call stereotypical like gender things that are related to gender roles. Not like women going into like the like at home or the kitchen or anything like that, but like women tended to do jobs that were more people based, things like that. So like I'm just wondering what do you think is a good representation of like everyone that also doesn't impact other people's choice? Because like at a certain point, if you're gonna just seek out like a quota for people so that you can have as much people as possible, like again, I understand if you just hire everybody, but like companies obviously have to make decisions about who they're gonna hire. So like if you're gonna get black people represented, then you have to have like a black person like quota, like, and there's places that have that like diversity hiring is a very big thing. So like I'm just wondering what's a fair distribution if like you're also going to give people the choice to make that they want. What do you think if given their choice people would choose? Would they choose close to the 50-50 representation that like we'd want?
I feel like in the future, like as we get less marginalized, it'll be more regular for a girl to be like, you know what? When I get out of high school, I'll just go grab a job as a garbage man real quick and it'll be fine. Like I think,
Okay.
but right now, like that's just so like
And
it's
what do you think
unheard of.
about
Like
this? What do you
you've
think
never
about
seen any women growing up
what do you
doing that, so like you're gonna be way less likely to
Well,
pave a new
I don't.
path.
I personally don't subscribe to the idea that if I don't see something enough, then like that's gonna prevent me from like wanting to be it. I didn't see anyone in my family who like, and maybe I'm just different. I don't know. That's fine. But like I like the idea of investing, and I've always wanted to. I've not always wanted to, but I've like been drawn to it in more recent years. But like no one instilled that in me. So like I don't know that like everyone is necessarily a product of just the things that they see all the time, like from a child's perspective. Like some people find their callings a lot later in life. Like I don't know that just from seeing a
I
garbage
mean,
man who's a woman, like people more women are gonna want to be garbage women.
you didn't dedicate that much of your life to investing though. Like yes, you do it, but like you don't do it
I
nine to
don't.
five every day, like and you show up and
I
like you can get
I
fired,
I
like that
spend
kind of investment. And that's what a job is.
Oh, but yeah, but in some people's careers, they can't get fired from their careers either if they're like if they're starting the business, if they're the person doing it. Like I look at it the exact same way. I'm not saying that I can be fired, but a lot of people when they're starting out can't be fired. That doesn't mean they're any less passionate about what they're doing.
Well, I think like so wait, so your original point was what again? I'm almost like lost about where we like went off to
Well,
with that point.
I'm asking you, what do you think is a fair distribution? Because you were saying you think you'll get basically closer to 50-50 as people have more choice. And I'm saying that I think that you should look up the study of, I think it
Oh,
was
right, right.
the, yeah,
And then you said
yeah.
you took on this, which is like, and you never saw anyone do that. And
No, no,
I
no,
brought up the work
no,
thing
right, right.
because
But I'm saying you said you
it's
thought in
just not as
general,
much of a commitment as just like picking up stocks as
right?
like a side thing.
But we start,
But like when you pick a job, like you have to do that all the time. So like if you're a woman, I mean, if I'm a man, like, and I pick jobs, would I
yeah.
pick personally? I would pick a job, yeah, that I've seen other men do. That I feel like I would know I can do it. I would
I
be
would just pick a,
surrounded by other men,
I would just pick a
and
job that I'm
that would be
interested
a good
in.
idea. But if I knew that there was I mean, if you knew
I
that you were going to go into an area that was dominated by like whites,
No,
I don't even know, whatever
that
race
no, that
would
wouldn't
not like you.
that wouldn't that wouldn't change. Like, oh, first of all, the assumption that like because I'm working with white people, they don't like me is crazy. but like,
Right,
yeah,
it's just whatever race, I guess, just whatever group wouldn't like you. I feel like, yeah, if you're the only one and you experience bullying and harassment every day,
but I'm
like you
saying
could
that
just not work there. Like you would just be like, all right,
yeah,
I won't.
I'm
But
not saying
if
that's
you
not a
go into the
possibility.
same work group and it's half of like this one group that does the bullying and half of the other group that's your representation, then honestly the bullying doesn't even matter. Like you could just be with half of them. So like honestly, and at that point the bullying probably wouldn't happen because the power dynamic is 50-50. So like the best would be, yeah, just like how whatever, if you live in a world where there's 50% women and 50% men,
Hmm.
then your workplace should probably look close to that. If you live in a world where there's 20% black people and 80% white people, then your business place, I think, should look somewhere close to that. It doesn't have to be 50-50, obviously. It should be 20-80 or whatever. Like wherever you live, whatever percentage that is, that's what it should be. But
Wait, so it
like
should be a
in
percentage. Wait,
history,
wait, so it should be a percentage
it has
of
never
what the
been that.
place is what you're saying.
Right, your environment or your community or your industry or whatever, or not your industry, I guess, but like where you, I don't know, like
So
you
what
have
if
to group it into something.
yeah, so what if you're 80, what if you're like 80/20 like white people to black people, right? And then like you have 10 employees and like if your town is small enough, and I don't think this is a good example, but like you could do like my town, for example. Like if I have 8,000 people and like or 10,000 people and only 2,000 of them are black and I want this specific job and you're saying like and I want to hire like 100 of these people that 20 I have to find 20 black people who want to do that job and like my question would be what if you can't find 20 people who want to do the job, like is it okay, like at what point is it okay for people to just say I don't want that? Because
But why, that doesn't make sense. Why would you not be able to find, if there's
because
20% are
because the
black, why would you
idea
not be able to find
because the
20%?
idea that just because a distribution of a town that will also represent the distribution of people who want to do certain things is crazy. Like that doesn't mean that just because
How
this
is that crazy? I think
because
to
it
think
is
that just
crazy.
because of your certain race that you were gonna have like, oh, like that's crazy.
No,
Like
I'm saying that it's
your
not
race
based on
shouldn't have anything
race.
to do with what jobs or anything you're going for. Like
No, I'm not saying that you are saying to yourself that oh I'm black so I shouldn't do X, Y, or Z. I'm saying that it might just be the case that like culturally you like it's just something you would never do. Like there's some people who would just never like be OnlyFans
and I feel
models.
like that's racist.
Wait, okay, so wait, let me understand. So like if I'm like I'm really like devout Christian and I like really believe in like what the Bible says and everything about that. Let's just assume that. And part of my religion is to not like show my body and like let's say I'm around like sex work like I don't what if I don't want to do sex work, me not wanting to do it is not a representation of racism in sex work. It's just that I don't want to do it. Like that's some people's narrative is just that they don't want to do it, and like to assume that that's necessarily
Well,
because
that's a
there's
religious
racism.
thing. So like that's not a race thing. Like there should
Right.
be 20% of those people who don't want to do it should still be black, and you can, I don't know, not pick them or pick them, whatever you want to do. But like you have to find an example that has to do with race because that's what we're talking about.
Well, I'm saying like there in just the in religion alone, like Christianity isn't like 50 people 50/50 black white. So like do you think that's because black people are marginalized out of Christianity?
I mean, in a way,
They were
yeah,
literally
of
we literally
course.
drug slaves here trying to brainwash them with Christianity. Like how does that make any sense? How does it make sense then that like that
Yeah,
the
when that was happening, they definitely had no representation in the top of of Catholicism. Like zero. The people who were there
you
doing
think the
that were
pro
all white.
so you think the main problem with the reason that there's not as many black people in Christianity as maybe there is percentage wise for white people is because they just
Actually,
haven't
yeah,
been
that
given a
makes complete
chance.
sense.
Just that's
Yeah,
and that's the answer
in fact,
for every statistical difference.
any
That's the answer.
any black person that I've seen convert from Christian to Muslim, that was the exact reason. There's like they dragged my ancestors here on a boat. Like I didn't have any say in this, but had they not done that and just been like, you know what, black people can come to America just for free, just like white people can, and they can become a priest just like white people can. If those same black person would be black and Christian today, they couldn't use that reasoning to be convert to Muslim. They could still choose to convert to Muslim for other reasons, but they can't say, "Hey, my ancestors never had a choice." They should have had a choice and they didn't. So yeah, they were marginalized in that way.
So any industry that starts with only one type of person is marginalizing everyone else by default. So every one person
Yeah, I would
business.
say that's the
So
definition of marginalization. Yeah.
so every single business that ever existed and started with one person, or probably less than 10, because you probably can't get everybody if you're less than 10 people. You can't represent everybody. Basically, every single business that's ever existed in life has been automatically from the start marginalizing everyone that they did not include on their roster.
That would be correct. I mean, if you are one white male and you're the only person of your company,
That's
then
so
your
silly.
entire company is 100% white
That's so
male.
dumb.
So like obviously it would be a
So
little
intent
weird.
so intent
Like
doesn't even matter. It's just a numbers game then. Like it doesn't even matter if you're one person
cor-
and can't afford to pay another person. No, that doesn't matter at all. Just the fact that you're not black, you're marginalizing somebody else. That makes absolutely no fucking sense.
well, I mean like if you were to purposely not hire like a black person for like the next 4 hires, then like yeah, like but like yeah, obviously it's a bit ridiculous to say, "Oh, you own your own company, that means you're racist because you don't have any people of other race." Yes, so that's why nobody ever argues that. But if you scale that
So
up
what's
and
the
then it's
cutoff?
like,
Five
okay, there's
people?
still 100%
How many
white males in
how
this
many
company,
employees do
then
I get
yeah,
before I get to worry about race in like your perfect world? I'm just
I would say
curious.
just like you said, about 10, like
You
just
get 10 you
exactly
get
like you said.
10 people 10 to account for everything, not just race. I'm gonna make sure I understand for race, gender, sexual orientation, absolutely everything that would separate people. I have to account for within 10 individuals.
Like every meaningful group, yeah.
So
I mean, and not
personality.
within 10, but like
That
once you get over 10, like it's looking bad. Like, yeah,
Jesus,
something needs
that
to
that's
probably change.
that's just absolutely insane.
That seems crazy. I feel like if I have 10, if I have, I feel like it'd be kind of crazy for me
I
at
think the world
Fuse
is far
to end
more
up with
diverse than that.
10 mixed males. Like I feel like that's I would have to kind of try to make that happen like a
I
little
think the
bit.
world is way more diverse than that. I feel like I know at
It is
least three.
more diverse than that. Exactly. So I shouldn't have a company with just 10 mixed
No,
males.
no, no,
Like,
no. My point is that I'm not saying that people shouldn't be more inclusive. It just in general, like that shouldn't be a barrier. Obviously, I agree with you. I just don't know if I agree that that's necessarily been the only obstacle. I feel like the way you talk about it is like that's the major one, and I feel like there's more to the story than that. Like from what I can see, but we have to agree to disagree on that. I completely agree though that.
what's the more to the story? What is
Well,
more?
a part of that is what I told you of like production, like part of where we are right now, and like especially again, you brought it. I know you don't like the sports analogy
Okay.
anymore, but you brought up sports. Like that's a big part of why you would not see those people paid more. That doesn't necessarily mean marginalization. So like that's part of the thing that I feel like you're just missing. Like you're just like no, like it's clearly a difference. So like it must be marginalization. I'm like well no, like
But
if you
like you're
necessarily.
missing how it all started to begin that way. The whole reason all of this is that way is because it started out as a male dominated. Most likely it started as a male
But
dominated
to
industry and then women had to just get into the whole thing like within the last 100 years.
But I'm
That's
saying,
exactly
but I
why
think,
it's that way to begin
but
with.
that's what I think is different maybe between how you and I see marginalization. Because in my mind, marginalization, the way it's used, at least from where I hear people use it, and maybe you're using it differently, is like that people are intentionally like, and you kind of said the word intent too when you're talking about hiring your first 5 people at your company, right? Like if people are intentionally doing this to you based on that thing, then that's marginalization. When if it just like appears like if it appears naturally like when you said like well like oh like it was a male dominated sport well like Yeah, but if men and women are playing, like if kids are playing basketball together, and then naturally they hit puberty, and one of them can play the game faster than the other one, like I can see why one of the people would dominate the sport more than the other one. I don't know that that's marginalization necessarily. I don't know that the story is
And I
a bunch of people just got together who were guys and were just like, nope, we're gonna keep the women out. I don't know that that's a story. Like I think it
and
has
I
more to
am
do with
saying
the
that
fact we're
that is
naturally
the
different.
story from a long time ago,
Okay,
and that is
I don't.
exactly what we're fighting against
Okay,
still to this day,
I have yet to
generations.
seen
So, like
I have yet
what
to
you
see any
have
proof that
considered to
that's the
be
story.
natural. Yeah, okay. So yeah, exactly. So what you have considered to be natural, and like you just look around and see this is the way things are. This is
Yeah,
natural.
this
Like,
is.
what do you mean? Like this, it works this way because men just are better
Bec-
at certain things. But like I'm saying, but I see it as like okay, it's this way because this one group literally never had the option and they're so far behind now and they have to catch up. But like really, like there's no fundamental difference in the work or like
well,
ability between
I
the
think
man and a man and a woman.
I think in terms of succeeding within their like gender, that's true. But when competing against each other, which again in part the fans are kind of doing because they have to make a decision sometimes of like let's say women's basketball was on at the same time as the NBA, like you're gonna
Yeah,
choose where
your
to.
stance is that the men are better. That is your
No, I'm
stance.
saying that I feel like a lot of people. Well, I do think the men are better at basketball, and I watch a lot. I'm telling you, I've watched a lot of it, and they are stronger, faster, and more athletic than the women. Just on average, that's just true.
Yeah, and that's basically what you have more or less said for like everything else. Like if the men are bringing in more, no matter what the industry, then they should be getting paid more.
Yeah,
And
I
yeah, and
just
I think that's wrong
I
because
don't.
I think they've been getting paid more and they're bringing in more because it's been male dominated since the
Right. So
beginning,
and
and
in
the women
certain
never had a chance.
And I'm saying in certain cases, I agree with you that that's true, but I don't know that that's going to necessarily change. So like in basketball, I think it's naturally a consequence of basketball that people who watch it actually really care about the winners, just because that's how the marketing around basketball is now. Like because it's a sport that builds up to playoffs, right? Like that's literally the system. So like people are going to care about who's in the playoffs more because they're going to see more games by people who are in the playoffs. So like obviously results that is a results based game.
And you can't argue that because we've already seen that if women produce more wins or whatever, even in WNBA, that doesn't mean they're going to be more watched. Because I know like the best team in the
Right.
WNBA, they still don't get as many views as
Exactly because people care
their male
because the
counterparts.
other part of what people care about when it comes to the NBA is the speed of the game. Like women are dunking less in the WNBA. That's not I don't think that's because they
Right.
just haven't had
Yeah.
enough time to figure out how
Women
to
are
dunk.
not as good.
Do you
It's
like
plain and simple.
are you honestly saying you think women can dunk just as well and just as often as men can? Is that what you're telling
I
me?
think I think in sports, just like I said, that is the one industry where your argument holds up. But I think in every single other industry, your argument doesn't hold up.
that's the only industry that I'm making the argument on is that the output.
But what I guess I didn't realize that, like, because what's the point of bringing up an argument that only holds true for one single
No,
industry?
the output argument matters. I'm talking about the sales component of that. You're saying like, well, it's not just output based. Well, in sports, there are a lot of sports that are. So like because sports is about athleticism. So like that's why that matters in that thing. In other places, the output that people care about is just different. The argument is the same. The output is what matters. And in sports, the output happens to be the one thing that unfortunately that biologically does not favor women. That doesn't mean that the women are being paid less because people want to see the more athletic thing. That doesn't mean that they're being marginalized. Like that's nuts. There are things that women are better at too. I'm sure. I don't know. I can't name everything, but like because I don't have a biological thing.
You're like, I'm sure there's something. You just
No, I'm
you
sure there's
gotta
many.
think
I'm
hard
sure there's
enough.
many things. For example, there more of them are nurses. More of them dominate the medical field. And like, I don't think that that means that men are just are just necessarily worse at being those things. They just part of it might be that they don't want to do that job, and also part of it, like especially nursing. Nursing has a lot to do with people. Like you and I talked about this before. A lot of people that I know who are women. I'm not saying everyone, but who do jobs
Yeah,
that
that's sexist.
Oh, okay. Say admitting that's just sexist. All right, yeah, yeah.
The moment you say most women, that's sexist. Like I'm just
Okay.
messing around with
No,
you, but
I
like
know, yeah, I know.
technically that's sexist. But I mean, yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yeah,
Like
I'm just saying some
at
things
the
just
end of the
happen that way.
day, yeah, you just think women are better or worse at most things. But like that's
I
just
think they're
I don't know.
I think
That's
they're worse at sports. That's for sure true. I think
yeah.
on average they're
What do you
worse.
think, Gouda?
They're
You've
not
been
as good.
silent as usual during this whole thing. I always hope to hear from you, but then it's just like, man, his mic is just dead.
Yeah, I think it was a delicious exchange of ideas. And if you're a up north Wisconsin Republican, you should get on here and try and defend yourself.
Yes, please. We need your perspective. I won't be mean, I promise.
I'm sure they'll say some of the same things I said.
But what do you think about everything else? Anything? Actually, I already know. He's not gonna say anything too controversial. It's a typical. No, I'm just kidding.
I can't wait to
Yeah, I
get I
think
can't wait to get canceled.
I think that's good for this episode.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty decent.
Well, all right.
Well, there it is then.
Until
A
next
2 hour.
time. Yeah, 2
Bye
hours.
bye.
Bye
Oh.
bye.